All right, all right, all right. What's going on, friends and family? Thank you so much for joining Every Day is a Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Hey, guys, I want to start off by thanking you guys so much for all the love and support that you guys have shown to the show. You guys keep me going, keep me motivated. I have found a love in doing podcasting. I get to meet and talk to all kinds of great people, and it's put me in touch with some really cool stuff. Also, if you guys are interested, I mean, who's not interested in some free stuff, right? I do got some stickers. It's going to be hard to see the light, but I have some, like a little bit of holographic and then some vinyl type stickers. If you are interested and you would like some free stickers, let me know. Just message me, through whatever, some means, email me, Facebook, one of those ways. Just let me know you're interested. I will send you some free stickers. All right, guys. Well, you know what? Today's another great day. We got another great interview. My next guest joined the United States Air Force right out of high school in 1986. After some medical issues were identified while he was in basic, he would then be medically discharged and then headed down to Texas, working with some big name ranches. After a couple years of doing that, he headed out to Wyoming, where he would become a part of the Sheriff's Department, working in the gang task force, and would find himself tired of the politics after 7 years. He then headed back to Nebraska, where he is a preacher and runs a nonprofit called Doose Outfitters Ministry, where they heal heroes through the message of the cross and hunting. Let's meet Chris Kniss, also known as Preach.
Hey, how you doing today?
All right. What's going on, Preach? How we doing, man?
It's another Saturday.
Yeah, buddy. Every day's a daggone Saturday, man.
That's
At
right.
least in my world, darn it. But how's Preach doing, man? I'm glad to see you. You know what, man? I've actually seen you on a couple podcasts, and I know you got a great story to share with us, and what you're doing out there. It's impacting the veteran community and first responders as well. And we appreciate you, Preach. But give us a little bit of a spill about yourself.
I don't know. I mean, I like you said at the opening, in '86, I went into the Air Force, and my my heart was to go into pararescue, and that's what my goal was. And about halfway through, some medical issues were identified, and they were like, "You never should have made it through MEPS. What are you doing here?" Idios. So, I was in my early 20s, and I grew up around horses, cattle. That's the area where we live is agriculture. So, I'd been a feedlot cowboy around home and decided I wanted something better. So, went down to Texas where they have good horses, really good horses. Not that we don't have good horses here, and went to work for a couple of cutting horse outfits, and ended up landing at Mark Chestnut Cutting Horses in Whitesboro, Texas. And I was down there for quite a little while, and just got homesick, was ready to step out of that, and I came back home and cowboyed here for a little bit, and I have no idea how I ended up in law enforcement, but I did. Went to work in Goshen County as a deputy sheriff and got picked up. Myself and my captain got recruited to the U.S. Marshals, and I started working the National Gang Task Force, and I did that for 7-8 years, and I just got tired of politics. Like with everything, they're as bad as the government is, and the military and their politics. And ended up moving to Nebraska. My dad was involved in a real bad motorcycle accident, and they are up there in age, and so I moved back down to Nebraska so I could help out with him. And let's see here. I was working for the railroad, spent quite a bit of time there. Met my wife. We started a commercial outfitters business. got tired of the politics and that. Everybody thinking that, they were entitled to a bag limit or entitled to a trophy harvest, and it's just like, this is hunting. This isn't a hot fence. This isn't what this is. And even then, and we were putting Bibles in people's hands. That was the main goal of it. But, I was dealing with my own demons from my past. Drugs, alcohol, pornography, promiscuity. At any given time during the first 3 years of Jay's and my marriage, she could have walked out and divorced me and nobody would have blamed her because I was pretty much a dirtbag. But she didn't. She led me back to Christ. And people ask her all the time, well, why didn't you cut bait and run? And she's like, God told me he had a plan for us. And that plan was Doose Outfitters Ministry. And so in 2015, we started doing this full time. And I didn't want to go into ministry full time. I fought God tooth and nail. And you never win that wrestling match. And so I ended up becoming an ordained pastor. And here we are, 2023. We got our 501c3 in 2017. Since 2015, we've hosted 315 veterans from across the country. But, myself and our board of directors, at the end of 2022, we had a meeting and, 315 is great from across the country, but we weren't getting anybody from Nebraska. And we just figured that we needed to incorporate something different, and visited with a lady. Her name is Amanda Held. She's the founder of Hooves out of Ohio, which is an equine therapy program and process. And visited with her, told her what we were about, and she said she'd love to get involved with us and certify us. So we'd be, the ministry would be a certified facility, as well as, our team would be certified as well. And we talked about it as a team, and everybody agreed that that's the way to go, because equine therapy has a proven track record in dealing with these post-war afflictions, and not only with our veterans in active duty, but even with first responders, police, fire department, even rescue, unit drivers. My demons all came from when I was in law enforcement, and so I saw some pretty wild stuff that really did a number on me. But, horses have a calming effect. They're a lot like a dog. But in order to get a horse to engage you, number one, they're a prey animal. So trust isn't a real big factor with them. And so you have to earn that. And you do that by being transparent with your feelings and your emotions and your mental state, because, a horse is so sensitive that it can feel a fly land on its back. And so that's the kind of thing that they're very, very sensitive. They can pick up on those things. And, we figured we need to start addressing the veterans in our own backyard. And, by incorporating an equine healing program and being certified, we'd be the only certified nonprofit in Nebraska according to what we do. Incorporating the art therapy, the hunting, and then the equine healing program as well. So, that would allow us, it's going to allow us to really be a hub, because we'll be able to work with all of Nebraska, northern Kansas, northern Colorado, eastern Wyoming and southern South Dakota, because we're so close to all of those states. And so we'll be able to make a major impact with those right away. Currently, we're just in the process of trying to raise the down payment, which is about $300,000. And so, yeah, that's kind of everything in a nutshell. So you have something to go off of and ask questions, and we can go from there.
Yeah, man. So, what was the actual big inspiration of doing the Doose Outfitters Ministry? I mean,
just the suicide epidemic. We lose more veterans and active duty military to suicide per day than what we've ever lost per day during a conflict or wartime, or however you want to define that. And that's just not acceptable. Somebody's, and what, and Steiner and I have talked in our board of directors, and I've been on a few podcasts, and I think we all are kind of in that agreement that grassroots nonprofits are the ones that are going to do it, because it's not about chasing the dollar for us. We're not multi-million-dollar nonprofits. We're mom and pop. The majority of us are all mom and pop operations that are doing it because we have a love for our veterans and our military and our first responders, and they matter to us. And what's happening with our veterans that are exfil from the military, they're not being prepped to deal with society and the rules of society and the engagement with society. And nobody really is standing in the gap to help them. So that's where we're at, where you get these, mom and pop nonprofits, and they're not all faith-based like us. It's just that every one of our board of directors has gone through our program. Every one of them is a veteran. Every one of them has struggled with suicide, and Jesus is the one that delivered them from that place. Because obviously what the VA is doing, it don't work. I mean, if it worked, we wouldn't be looking at 150 veterans a day, active duty military a day, taking their own lives. That's just unacceptable.
In some cases, it could be agitated by the VA. Some of the situations, when sometimes when veterans speak, there comes consequences, maybe in their eyes. When they speak up about something, they get put down a whole ringer of things, and sometimes that's more of a trigger to them, because speaking for me, they constantly just want me to constantly just talk about the same thing over and over and over. It's like, oh, did you talk to another therapist? Well, yeah, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I think I'm getting more help, honestly, by talking to my fellow veterans and other people that have been there and gone through it with me than sitting here going to,
Well, the thing is why would you revisit the past?
Right.
Why would you revisit what is constantly causing the demons to come and that are causing the issues that you're having?
Yeah.
I mean, that whole concept doesn't even make sense to me.
Right.
What we're trying to do is get you to forget about that past, leave it there, because it's done, it's over with, and nothing good is going to come out of revisiting it. So, that's what this is about, and 9 times out of 10, a veteran just wants somebody to listen to them and to know that they legitimately care. They're not doing it for a paycheck, and they're not doing it to be nosy, because the last thing that a veteran wants to really hear from me is, well, tell me about your experiences.
Right.
Why? That's just me being nosy.
Sure.
and that isn't it. I don't need to know that to know that there's damage and open wounds there.
And sometimes I'll be honest with you, that question alone puts up a guard for some people.
Absolutely.
And it automatically is like, oh shit. Now they're prying.
Here we go again.
And when you're dealing with the veteran community in general, a lot of them are they don't trust. They have a lack of trust,
and as well they should.
Yeah, and and everybody wants to sit there, pry, and then next thing you know, they say something wrong. Their weapons are being taken away from them, or this or that. They can't do this now. They can't drive. They can't do this, and now they feel like their freedoms are being what they went and actually fought for. Their freedoms start getting ripped from them. One by one by one. Like, well, this is happening. Well, here's a pill for this, but now you can't do this or that, and now we need to take this from you. It's like, that's the part that it gets to be a little bit.
Why does it take 30 pills a day to treat something?
Yeah, I know. I mean, and not only that, but man, what kind of damage is that doing internally to your organs? You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, we're putting a Band-Aid over this, that, or the other, but you're not fixing things. You know what I mean? So
what I have found is when we get a veteran out in the duck blind, you get a veteran sitting on a ridge glassing for deer or turkey. Yeah, I've had the opportunity, one of my board of directors and my wife has a TBI, and my grandson just went through major trauma with the loss of his mama. We lost our next youngest daughter, 5-6 weeks ago. It was amazing to see the response that these animals, because we went to a place called Mantle's Wild Horse Ranch, and they provide the horses for nonprofits like what we're doing. But to see my vice president, my president, and my grandson interact with these animals, and for these animals to respond to them the way that they did. I mean, I had horses sticking their heads through, openings just to be able to wrap their head and their neck around my wife and around my grandson to let them know, I got you. And isn't that what all of us want to hear is I got you, and know that that's true?
Yeah. I mean, and I think
especially if you've been in the military,
Yeah.
The military is based on, I've got you, you've got the guy on your left, and the guy that's to my right has me.
I got you 6, right?
Yes. That's the concept, that's the mentality, that's what trust is based off of. And now, coming out of the military, you don't have that, because society is all about, what do I stand to gain, or I'm going to lay the screws to you so I get ahead. I'm sorry, I wasn't brought up that way.
Yeah.
My granddaddy brought me up to, you take care of the widows and the orphans. That's what you do. You be a good man.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, that's, in a nutshell, that's what it's all about, is just us wanting to impact lives to the point to where the temptation to gnaw on the end of a 9mm is removed, because they trust either me or one of my team members enough to call us at 3:00 in the morning and know that we're going to answer the phone, and that they're not going to be told, well, let me get back to you, I'm tied up. No, that's what the VA does. You can't get a mental health appointment without having to wait 3 months. And if you need a mental health appointment, you need it today.
Yeah.
If you're battling demons, you need that help today. And being put on the back burner is not an answer.
No, that happens a lot, man. And it it's that's one of the bigger problems, and I do know that in some senses, like at least I can say from my own experience, what I've gone through, they've gotten better, and that's the hopeful part is they gotten better, but it's taken so many years, and the problem is we've gotten better, but we're still not great, and that's where we got to get
But
to
here's the
when
thing that's
they throw out an average number of 22, which we all do know that that's just a number
a
that's to
whole lot of
market
BS.
and everything of that. It's a marketing number. It's
Yeah.
something that people can make money off of. It's something they can market, but the number far exceeds that sometimes. I mean, far exceeds it. So
Nebraska right now, Steiner and I was talking to another friend of mine that has a nonprofit, and we're comfortable with saying that Nebraska's losing 200 veterans a year. That's just out of Nebraska.
and Nebraska's not that big of a state in
I mean,
comparison to like a California where I
yeah,
live and other like Florida and some of those states, Texas. But no, I mean
Montana.
that's still a very, very big number. I mean, just
Yeah,
in
and
Nebraska,
it's just like one is too many.
it is.
And to disrespect our veterans by making light of the situation the way that the VA does, that's the part that pisses me off. Let's just be transparent and be real. Quit worrying about the blowback you're going to get for being honest.
Yep. And not only that, but sometimes it's they want to keep pounding and pounding down on your military experience, which a lot of that's probably what a lot of us have issues with. And then there's after that, when we come home, then we have to deal with life triggers, things that put you in those kind of situations. And sometimes that could be your spouse if you're not in a good marriage or if you're in a bad situation. And so then they have a failed marriage or a failed relationship, and then boom, that spins them down of the whole path of I'm a failure, I'm no good. And then if they married or they had a bad spouse that just badgers them and then verbally or physically, mentally abuses them,
Dude,
I mean, at that rate, you can't take it. You know what I mean? And I know,
I've been in situations like that.
Right? Me too.
I caught my second wife in bed with my best friend. I mean, I'm like,
yeah. So I caught my first
serious?
wife. Yeah.
But
and boy, I tell you what, man, it's that stuff right there sends you down, your PTSD and everything just heightens. And I'm a firm believer, man, when your mental state is not in a good place, that's when you're bound to make the most bad decisions, regrets, and just do things that you're like, gosh, damn, why did I do that? Well, because man, you were ill. You were not well. You didn't have a temperature or something like that, but you were ill mentally, and that puts us in bad places. That makes us do bad things.
And the sad thing is they are convinced that by taking their own life, that's the answer to the problem, but it's not.
Right.
They tell themselves, my family would be better off. My wheelhouse would be better off. They don't realize that the ripple effect that it has, it rips through the families. And I've told people this on previous podcasts, but 1 out of every 3 kids that has a parent that's a veteran that commits suicide falls into the risk of suicide themselves. 1 out of every 3. That's 33% of the kids in our country. That's huge in itself. And right now, the leading cause of death in teenagers is suicide.
Yeah. It sucks, man. I mean, and it's hard. It's rough. And the part that it gets me, I guess, too, is this stuff isn't new. It's just that it's just way more in front of our face because it's more accessible. So that's the concerning part to me, man, is
Yeah.
how have we allowed this to get away? We go make epidemics about this, that, or the other, but we don't want to
Because
go talk about the suicide, because even
it
at that point
shines
in
a light,
time, people have to start saying, well, shit, we're failing our people.
right?
You're starting to
It
fail your
shines a
people.
light on the VA's failures. It shines a
Right.
light on the bureaucrats' failures. It shines a light on the military's failures. And do you think anybody in any three of those bodies is going to stand up and take accountability for for failing? The
Unfortunately,
individuals
that's the
that
world.
gave them the right to sit where they're at, eating
Yeah.
bonbons and sucking on a cigar all day.
See,
Come
unfortunately,
on.
that's the world that we live in, though, is there's no accountability and no one wants to take ownership. And so
Nope.
that's how problems don't get fixed, because in order for you to fix a problem, you have to identify and accept that either you failed or something you did failed or something of that nature. That's the only way you'll be able to change it. Because
Absolutely.
if you go in with the same mindset when it failed, chances are, man, it's going to do the
Absolutely.
same. You're going to get the
Well, it's
same
just
result.
like, it's just like getting the veteran to verbally acknowledge, yes, I have mental health issues. I'm going to say 90% of veterans won't verbally acknowledge it
Yeah,
because
you're right.
doggone it, we're war fighters. We've seen stuff that would make babies and mothers toes curl backwards, and so you talk to a war fighter that's at the top of his game, in the top of his field, and if he says anything about there being any mental health issues, head trauma, they're jerked off their team. Now, if you're the very best at what you do where you're at, are you going to accept that? Heck no. Why would I let you do something that's going to affect my team plus affect me? That ain't going to happen. The other side of that coin is if you haven't claimed it while you're active, you can't claim it when you're inactive, when you've retired or what have you, in order to get the benefits for it. So what do? There's such a stigma about it that it drives me nuts. The reality of it is probably 95% of all of creation, every man, woman, and child is taking a ding biscuit. I know I do. I can't go to Walmart without feeling so much anxiety. I feel like I'm going to puke and my heart's going to jump out of my chest. And it's worse if I don't take it.
Yeah.
So, it's just about addressing the elephant that's sitting in the corner.
Well, you
Let's
see,
be
let me
honest
tell you
with each other.
something
Let's be
too.
transparent.
Yeah, I will tell you this for, and because I cannot really speak for the generation of now. I can just speak from my own experience. So when I got home from, being in a combat zone, in 2003, got ready to get out in 2004. The military, I hate to say it, but when you're getting out, they can give a shit about you at that point in time, because
Absolutely.
you're not there to serve them anymore. So
Yeah, their
when they
answer
start
to
this,
decompressing you is giving you 30 days of no job.
yeah. So I mean, for me, like, so yeah, it's like, here's you've saved up some extra time, you get some extra time off. But man, for one, when I left, right, I didn't know what PTSD even what. I didn't even know what PTSD even was, right? I didn't know what that was, didn't know what the feeling of it was, any of that, right? Until I experienced it one day, walking from getting out of the movie theater. Me and a buddy, we were walking back to our car, and I mean, this was probably early 2004, when I'm just about ready to get out, and I had been home for a couple months now, and just walking, and all of a sudden this Amtrak went by, and it made me like black out and just might go cold, like a cold sweat. I couldn't even express like what I was going through. And I like just like paused and like blacked out, and my buddy's like, "What's up, man? And I'm just like, I couldn't even talk. I felt like I was just frozen up, man, and I had no idea what I was going through, right? And so the way that we grew up, a lot of us like back in the 80s and 90s is like that whole suck it up, and you're a bitch if you talk about stuff. So I'm good, bro. I'm good. The fucking, don't worries. I'm like, I'm good. After I walk out of that, can't explain to anybody what I just went through. I couldn't even explain it to myself, so to speak. But there it is, man. Then all of a sudden, it just slowly but surely, everything, like the walls around me felt like they were always starting to cave in when I would be out and about. And I always felt like something was going to happen. It just, or looking out at the exits and looking at making sure I've got my back to the wall. I do this every day.
I still
now.
do it. Absolutely.
My wife knows when we go out, if we go out, how we sit, you know what I mean? Or where we sit type of deal.
Absolutely.
But I know it now. And I'm well aware of the things that I go through now, and I'm able to talk myself better through it. But had I maybe had a better education of that kind of stuff when I was getting out, and then give more of a shit about me as I was getting ready to leave, maybe things could have been different for me, and I wouldn't have had so many badass things that went down. Because I mean, my gosh, dude, I had a domino effect of issues. Just not being mentally stable, getting into bad relationships, bad marriage. Bada bing, bada boom. But maybe I had a better education or something like that, had these podcasts, had these type of, a lot of these nonprofits are now starting to come out and things like that. These things would have been preached up or taught to us as we're getting out. Like, hey, man, there, if you guys are getting out, here's a way to go connect with some, and have some camaraderie and keep that going. You don't have to lose it. Just because we get out doesn't mean we got to lose all that. Because it is tough, dude. We all go, all of us serve together in one state, and then we go back to our own cities, our own states, and some of it's miles and miles away.
You lose a sense of belonging to something. You lose that camaraderie.
Yeah, you just got done sitting there shooting the shit with them all the time, telling them stories, giving them your life, telling them all your everything. I mean, you have probably some of the most intimate conversations with some of these people that you're day in, day out with.
Absolutely.
Because, let's face it, I mean, after you go through high school and stuff like that, and you go through a whole set of different life things, I've grown a lot closer with all my military buddies because of all the things that we've gone through, and now that we have so much more in common and related to, and that's where I started growing out of some of the relationships with some of my friends, unfortunately, is because we had such a disconnect in our thought processes were.
Oh, absolutely. The thing is, and especially when it comes to the nonprofits, is follow through is so important. Say what you mean and mean what you say. If you can't tell somebody, or you can, but you don't mean it, you're incapable of doing it, don't tell them you're going to do it. Because all you've done at that point is verified that nobody gives a shit. And that's
not only then, but you're just going to, once again, this is why they have a lack of trust for people.
Absolutely.
And so don't be another, hey, we're this great veteran organization and we're going to help you out. Absolutely. We're going to give you the fucking world. And then as soon as they get there, it's just crickets and everything else. Yeah. And they're like, what happened, man? You said this and that. Well, one day, like that they don't need that, man. Yeah, exactly. That one day they're looking for is now. You know what I mean?
Every one of our board, you could call any one of us. You could call our president, our vice president, our other two board of directors, or myself. You could call any of us at 3 a.m, and you're going to get an answer. Probably more so from me, because I tell guys, call me if you're battling at 3 a.m. You call me, and you don't fight alone. I put myself out there that way because that's the only thing that's going to make that impact. That's the only way that's going to keep the suicide deficit from you becoming a statistic. And so, but I could guarantee you, if you call one of us and we don't answer, it's because we are incapable of doing it at the time, but you're going to get a phone call back. We will message you when you call. If we can't take the call and say, listen, I can't talk right now, but I'm going to call you. Just hang in there. Unless this is an emergency. If this is an emergency, let me know. But, once again, if that's how you're going to put it out there, you better be willing to follow through.
Yeah, but you're, you got to walk the walk, talk the talk. I mean,
absolutely.
That's big, especially when you're dealing with a lot of these people who are seeking and looking for that ledge or something to grab on. Don't be that slippery soap for them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And they need that. So you got to,
and if you're a nonprofit, don't make it about you.
Yeah.
That's the one thing.
You're probably in it for the wrong reason at that point.
Absolutely. If you're in it about building a name and a reputation, and it's not about the veteran, then you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
All that other stuff will take care of itself. Focus on the veteran at risk and deal with that individual. That's what's going to create a good reputation. And I think that's what's, impacted the community for us is we say what we mean and we mean what we say. Our walk and our talk match up.
So Preach, kind of run me through your guys' process when, a veteran comes to you, and then kind of just run us through what your service provides, what your nonprofit does in that.
It depends on what they're coming for. We just, number one, if you haven't come through an organization that we work with, you're coming on your own. All you got to do is call us. And what we ask you to do is send us verification, send us, a copy or a snapshot of your DD-214. So there's verification. And then we'll have a conversation and we'll talk, kind of a vetting process, just to get to know each other and, what's to be expected and what's not acceptable. Because number one, we don't allow alcohol. We don't allow drugs, street drugs. I mean, that's not the answer. And we get that all settled in, we get it all worked out, what you're going to be doing. And then it's, when you show up, Ms. J isn't a handshaker. She's going to hug you around the neck. But it's, for us, it's about family, 100% about family. We want every veteran that comes through that door to understand that they have a family in Nebraska that cares, that's not going to turn their back on them, and that isn't going to judge them. And that's the key essentials right there, is those three right there, because that's what builds trust. And it takes so much to build trust, but all it takes is that one screw up of you not following through with your word.
Yep. 100%.
And it's ruined, and you're not going to gain that trust back from a veteran. You're just not going to do it, not easily anyway. But so we that the first night that they're around, we have a Ms. J, of course, and her cooking. You better be on a diet for a couple weeks before you show up, because she's going to fatten you up. But, it's just breaking bread and spending some time talking and fellowship and just getting to know each other, chewing on the fat, if you will, and, if we're hunting, It's getting to bed. Try to get there by 9 because we're going to be up probably by 3:30, 4 o'clock, so we can get that first crack of light. And then, it's just us sharing our testimonies, what Jesus has done in our lives, and I get it, religion leaves a foul taste in everybody's mouth, which it should, because that isn't what Jesus wants. Jesus doesn't want religion. He wants a relationship. He wants you to talk to him the way I'm talking to you right now, just to have conversation and be willing to open your heart to him. And that's what we do. We're just like, dude, this is my story, BC, before Christ, which when they hear my testimony of where I was before Christ and what we're doing now, they're like, dude, seriously. And I'm like, yeah. If you'd asked Jay and I 15 years ago, it said that you guys are going to be involved in a ministry and Preach is going to be a pastor, we'd have both said you fell and bumped your head, because they no. But that God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. Somebody that He can use to share the message, that is an instrument, and for whatever reason, He chose me. And
Preach, I'm kind of glad you said what you just said there. Sorry, I'm kind of interrupting you. Because
no.
Because something I always did, I ain't gonna lie. I was growing up as a Christian, all that stuff. But man, when I would go to that church, I never felt so judged. I mean, everything seemed extremely hypocritical to me, where
Absolutely.
I had a lack of trust. You know what I mean? So it's come to the point of like where I started realizing, well, I'm falling victim to the world. And I'm starting to fall victim to the man, and a man leading me and not going by God. You know what I mean? So that's when I started,
That's
and also looking at, man, religion's just another divisive measure to create division. It's start pinning other religions against each other. Well, my religion's the right religion. No, well, my religion's the right one. Well, mine is. Well, I mean, good luck. There must be, I don't know, 20, 30, I don't know how many religions there are, but there's more than 5 of them, or you know what I mean? It's just,
Absolutely.
So tell me who's right, who's wrong. And I think you nailed it, man, that God doesn't want you to go find, that
It's
church,
not,
or it's about having that relationship, and that is an important thing. And a lot of times what makes people turned off to it is they watch someone up there preaching this, doing this, and then they're not living by what they're saying, or they're just super hypocritical, or it's spun out on their beliefs and what they believe in, right?
Yeah, and so I tell people, don't get it twisted. Yes, I'm a pastor, but it's what I do. It's not who I am. That isn't what makes me who I am. I'm just a dude, really. And I struggle with sin the same way you do.
Right.
And who am I to judge you? I'm nobody.
Yeah.
Really. And it's nobody's place to judge. When I do speaking engagements, when we go to to do these, they want me to be on a stage and stand, and I'm like, no, put a chair down on the floor in front of everybody. I'm going to sit down. We're going to have a conversation. I'm not above anybody, and I don't want to stand above anybody. I want to be eye level. I want to be on the same level as everybody else. Don't make me to be something I'm not. I'm just a dude.
And that's great, because a lot of times that's another thing when it comes to certain religions is the ownership, not owning certain things, you know what I mean? And not being able to accept it. Like, oh, we don't judge people. Yeah, you do. like if they're not wearing the right proper pairs of clothes, or they don't got the right threads on, or they're not
Oh,
tithing a certain percentage, you can't become part of the church.
yeah.
It's just wow. You
There's
start to feel like, is
churches
this about
that you
money
walk
or
into. If you got tattoos, they're just like, oh,
yeah,
they lose their
exactly.
minds. Well,
Right.
that casts me out of that church.
So I mean, yeah,
You know,
so
I
so I
mean,
mean, automatically, bro, I always felt like I was getting stoned.
yeah. And
You
it's
know,
just like
when
Jesus
when
said,
I
you
needed
were,
people the most, I felt shunned
it,
by them. You know what I
it's
mean?
like Jesus said, ye who are without sin, cast the first stone. And when he's telling that, when he comes and when that story is being told, it was in the midst of a bunch of Pharisees and Sadducees that had caught a woman having extramarital. She was a prostitute, I believe. And the Pharisees and Sadducees were like, this woman, according to the law, she needs to be stoned. And Christ picks up a rock and he says, well, whichever one of you is sinless, cast that stone.
Yeah.
And nobody would take that stone. And the only person that was sinless at that during that whole time was Christ. And he dropped the stone. And he said, I love you. Go and sin no more. It's that simple. If we
These
would just be transparent with each other, quit trying to outdo each other, quit trying to make ourselves something we're not.
Yep, these
This would be
mainstream mega churches are ruining stuff too, man. I mean, you
absolutely.
know, when I look at churches too, I look at them as a community center in a way, where they should be in a community outreach. Where if there's like a homeless surrounding, they should be out there helping, trying to help the homeless, take their tithings. But you go there and you see like a bigger screen TV. They got all these, crazy instruments. It looks like you're at a rock concert now. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
outside, you go around the corner and you got all these homeless people chilling, and we're out here with
And
our
and why
lights
is
and,
that?
choo, choo,
Why are
choo,
they
choo,
out? Why aren't they invited to come into the church?
right. Yeah. And
You know,
oh,
and
they're
that's
not wearing the right proper clothes, or,
right,
they,
right.
they look this way or they look that way. That's the part that
Yeah,
has turned so many off. I mean, you know,
absolutely,
to
absolutely.
that part of the fellowship of going and meeting people, now you're like, good Lord, who can I trust here?
Yeah,
Or, who's that one that's just here to like, look what they're wearing today,
yeah. Well, and that's the cool thing about our home church. Our home church supports us, but they are about impacting the community. I mean, Thanksgiving. I mean, we deliver over 200, 250 meals to families in the valley in need. Same way at Christmas. I mean, we we are an outreach, and that's what Christ told us to do. Christ didn't tell us to go to church and sit in the pews and claim to be holier than thou. What Christ taxed us with is go out and make disciples of all nations. Well, you can't do that having your butt glued to a church pew. And that's where most people are comfortable, is being a member of the frozen chosen. Now, me, now I'd rather be out. I'd rather you and me be out. And yeah, it's one on one, but I'm going to get something accomplished when it's you and me. I can share my story. I can be transparent with you. And you don't. It's your choice whether you choose to be transparent with me or not. But you're going to get you're going to get who Chris Kniss is. And that's where I would never make being a congregational pastor, because being a pastor of a congregation, you have so many people that have placed you on this pedestal as being this spiritual leader. And it's like, who do you worship? Are you worshiping Jesus, or are you worshiping this man?
Man, right. Yeah.
He's just teaching you. it's not about him. It's about you getting in your Bible, reading your Bible, getting to know who Jesus is, getting to know who God is, and building on that relationship, spending time in prayer, spending time out in creation, talking to God like I'm talking to you right now, and seeing things. One of our board of directors, and I'm not going to put his name out there without talking to him first, but last year during deer season, we don't ever use our sanctuary property to hunt deer. It's just not something we do, because we're trying to increase that population and get some real nice mature bucks on it. But so this board member asked if I'd take him out there and just let him spend a day sitting and watching. I'm like, absolutely. I came back that night, and I saw him walking through the woods at me, and I opened my door and was getting ready to get out, and dude, he just wrapped his arms around me. I couldn't move, and I'm like, and he's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm like, for what? He says, for me to witness God the way I witnessed him today just changed my whole aspect of things and the way I see things. And he said, I saw 5 big mature mule deer or whitetail bucks running through here, and so many doe and ducks and geese and this and that and the other. And I said, you saw how many mature bucks? And he told me it was 5 or 6. I said, well, you got a whitetail tag. Why don't you come out here and sit and take one of them? The only deer that's ever been shot off that property. And he shot a beautiful mature whitetail buck that I think he probably scored 160, 165, probably 200 pounds. I mean, just a monster whitetail buck. And that changed that individual. The hunt didn't, but the precursor to the hunt is what changed him. And it was an amazing change. It was amazing to see how God used that day and how it changed this individual's life. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing to be a witness to it. And so, I guess my point being is a lot of healing can take place out in the woods or up on a ridge or even, just sitting on a front porch with a cup of coffee and talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about and that cares.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how much just going out and listening to the nature sounds will help the mental health. I mean, I know when I'm at my worst times, I like to go by a running little creek that we have up by us and just go listen to the water running and the birds chirp, and then have that time of being able to just take off my shoes and kind of become one with the ground, and just, take the phone, move it away from me, get it out of my hands.
Well, and you said it right there. That's the other part. That's the quintessential part to this whole process is unplugging from society, unplugging from all the garbage
because all this stress
through our eyes and our ears. It's just like, and we tell our guys, do yourself a favor, shut that thing off, unless you're going to talk to your family. But I encourage you to go ahead.
Now, do you think that adding the cell phones and making them the way that they're so accessible to absolutely everything has induced stress into our culture more than it ever has before? Because now you have so many other things to be focused on or stressed out, like, oh my gosh, so-and-so didn't text me, or all these things. I feel like since they've added the phone, our youth mental health has gone way higher. And I don't know if it's because they have more access to adult stuff and it's inducing stress, or I don't know, but I feel like the cell phone itself does add a lot of stress. And when you disconnect yourself from it for a moment, you can kind of feel yourself like, wow. I know my wife gave up social media on some platforms for a while, like Facebook and all this stuff. Her mental health got better because she's an
Well,
empath, as
sure.
well.
Well, I think what happens is it's a gateway, right? I mean, so scripture tells us that the what we battle are principalities, and such, and so they're the rulers of this world, and so it's, as a pastor, it's hard enough to get people to believe in angels, but to get them to believe in that there really are demons out there, that there is a spirit realm that exists that we are not capable or even allowed to see, because if you saw it, quite honestly, whatever we went through during war times would be cake compared to what's going on in the spirit realm. So I think a lot of it opens up doorways for the enemy to enter into your life and impact you. Because, I mean, think about it. When you and I were kids, how did we look at boobies?
Yeah.
Playboy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Today, anybody that knows how to operate Google, that free porn's
Boom.
free everywhere you
Yeah.
go.
Right.
On the internet, you can find any way to make any concoction. Anything that is negative, you can be found on the internet and is accessible to anybody.
Yeah, 100%.
When you and I were growing up, it wasn't like that.
No.
We weren't worried about the crap that these kids worry about today. And that's why the military can't find quality individuals to join the military today.
Well, that's what scares me. Is there going to be so many kids that have seen mental doctors while they're, in school, and now you have all these kids that have had or that are diagnosed with anxiety, depression, PTSD, all these things. Now, are we going to be able to have a military, or they're going to end up having to have all kinds of more types of what's it called to let everybody in, man? Waivers. You know what I mean?
Well, even the waivers doesn't work. I mean, think about it. When you and I went through basic, I mean, it was nothing for your TI to come up and slam the bill of his hat off that bridge of your nose.
Right.
A TI does that today. And I mean, these kids are pulling their red card out saying, oh,
yeah.
It's like, what is a red card?
My drill instructor, he popped me right in the ear and grabbed me in by my ear and pulled me to the middle of the squad. Hey, man, I mean, it was a lot more hands-on.
Yeah.
But how else be that way now?
How else could they break that mentality of entitlement and, and
our enemies aren't nice. Our enemy ain't nice, and part of being in boot camp is learning how to deal with absolutely, the most, because I mean, what do you think when you get caught by the bad guys? You think they're just gonna be over here giving you some lollipops and what's your favorite show? What's your favorite show you want?
You show them that red card.
You got a stress card?
I mean, come on.
Nah, so, yeah,
and it's that's what I think that's what separates these big city kids from these the Midwest culture, is because, especially these kids that grow up on ranches and farming in these rural areas, because they don't have time to sit in front of a video game or to be on their phone. They've got things to do to keep that farm or ranch up and going. They might get Saturday night, or if they're in sports, get Friday night. But other than that, they're working. That's the way it was with me.
Well, now I'm starting to see them on TikTok, man.
I'm
starting to, because they're ranching on TikTok now. I mean, because
and the other side of it is now these kids are getting good enough at playing these games. They can go on YouTube and play games on YouTube and get paid for people watching them to play games.
Yeah, I know. And now,
What?
well, then that gives everybody that impression. So these kids are like, you telling me I could play Call of Duty all day long and make money? What?
Yeah.
No, man, it doesn't work that way for everybody. Yes, there are those people out there that get it, but again, I asked them how long it took them to get there. But yeah, some of these things are really, I think, giving our kids or our future generations a little bit of a false narrative, and some of them are
But that's what the enemy wants.
right.
If he can infiltrate their minds at a young age,
Right.
you know, I mean, I can remember when we first started our ministry, we were working with an organization that was nothing but tier 1 operators that were still active. And through social media, we weren't allowed to share anything. And that's why for so long last year, when we ended up at Heroes Stock, 95% of the people that were there were like, where are you guys from? And we're like, Nebraska. And they're like, why haven't we ever heard of you? And so then you share with them, this is why. And they're like, man, I wish I'd have known about you 3 years ago. So that's what, after Heroes Stock last year, and hooking up with Steiner and Jesse, we came to the decision it's time to impact our Nebraska veterans, and try to make as much of an impact on them as we have, the veterans from across this country. Now, don't get me wrong and get it twisted. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Out of those 315, we've lost 2 that made me physically ill to have to say that, that they didn't reach out to us, and the hardest thing to do is to stare that family in the face and say, there's nothing you could have done. Well, I never saw it coming. He never said it. He didn't want, he was done crying out for help. When they go off and you never saw it coming, they were done crying for help. They didn't want to be stopped. And so that's the part that's a burden that I think nonprofits need to realize, and they kind of got to carry that, and they've got to be willing to carry that. This isn't fun and games, what we're doing. This is spiritual warfare that we're engaged in every single day. So,
absolutely.
From that standpoint, it's we as a ministry this year, ever since we committed to this equine therapy program, we've been under attack. I mean, 2 of our board members had divorces. Our next youngest daughter was taken from us. Shortly after that, 3, maybe 4 weeks after that, I'm in Colorado having emergency surgery because I'm going through internal organ shutdown.
Gosh, man.
And so,
when you get attacked, you get attacked, man.
Yeah. And so I use that as encouragement, though, because if we weren't making a difference and impacting lives, the enemy wouldn't give 2 squirts about us. But when he's coming after us because we are impacting lives, that's when you know you're doing the right thing. And so, I tell our team that, stay focused and stay ready. And when I say ready, I mean battle ready. I mean, you better be prepared to strap it on every morning and get, if you're going to dance with the devil, you better be wearing the right boots. That's all I got to say.
Right.
And thank goodness that, God had me in the palm of his hands, because I told my wife, I said, go home and get some sleep. They got to take me to Colorado. Well, to start off, what it was they come in and said, you got to have surgery. And I'm like, so is there any way that diet and, medication can deal with this? Because I don't have time for surgery. I don't have,
Don't got
and,
time.
and the surgeon looks at me and he says, Mr. Kniss, what is it you do for a living? I said, I'm a pastor. He said, all right, you just made this real easy for me. If you don't have surgery, you're going to die. And my wife and I just kind of went. And so I'm like, okay, Jay, well, even finding out what was going on, that wasn't the easiest thing either, because we couldn't find a transport to take me from our hospital in Nebraska to Loveland, Colorado. All of the both flight for life units were out of commission. None of the local ambulances could do it. So it took an ambulance crew from 60 miles away, or 45 miles away, I guess, maybe, to come down, pick me up, and say, yeah, we'll take him to Colorado. And so they were on their way. I told my wife, I said, Jay, go home and get some sleep. I said, because you won't be able to make it. We've been up since 4:30 this morning. It's now, I think the ambulance ended up getting there, so it was 3:30 in the morning the following day. So we'd almost been up for 24 hours. I said, go home and catch a few winks. And she's like, all right. Well, thank goodness our sister-in-law said she'd come with, because she drove. But, that whole time, I never felt any anxiety. I was never worried. I was calm. And I told God, I said, if this is the final curtain, just let me say goodbye to my wife, and I'm good with it. Take me home. So I never felt that anxiety of I'm dying. And they took me into surgery like I want to say it was about 10:30 in the morning that following morning. And the next thing I remember, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had 4 pretty good gashes in me from where they had to operate, but I never had any pain. They kept wanting to give me pain medication. I'm like, I don't need it. I said, what I'd like is something to eat, because I'm starving to death. I'm a big fella. They're like, we can't get you any food until, the surgeon tells us what the diet is. And it was 8:30 that night before he come in, and he's like, he's looking good. He's doing good. If he isn't in any pain and isn't on pain meds, let him eat. And so, and I didn't overdo it. I think I did some Jello and some pudding and an ice pop or something like that, and a cup of coffee. And that next morning, I ordered a full breakfast, and they come in and they were like, how are you feeling? I said, fine. Do you need any pain meds? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm ready to go home. And they're like, well, have you had, done this, X, Y, and Z? I'm like, yeah, I've done them 2 or 3 times. And they were like, did you have surgery yesterday? I'm like, absolutely. Trust me. You want to see the puncture wounds? It looked like I'd been shanked. And they were like, we've never seen anybody go through this surgery and come out on the other side in the shape that you're in. And they're like, we'll get the release papers ready and you can go home today. So, I mean, I was in the hospital on Sunday, surgery Monday, and home Tuesday. Now I'm still on light duty because, the wounds from the surgery, they don't want me to get a hernia or something. So I'm still on light duty, but, it's like, everybody's like, you don't even look like you've ever had surgery. And I'm like, it's the grace of God, I'm telling you. when he's got his hand on you and you're in his will, it's amazing what happens and doesn't happen. You've just got to be willing to submit your life to him and say, use me.
Right.
And he will. It's the most dangerous prayer you can pray is, use me to your full access. And he will. And, hence Doose Outfitters Ministry was born. And here we are 8 years later, and wow. 315 veterans later, so, it's about caring, being a servant and being willing to be selfless, just no different than what it was when you were active. It takes a selfless act to join the military because you are willing to lay your life on the line for somebody that you don't even know. The only other person that's done that besides the American soldier is Jesus Christ. And he died for us before he even knew who we were. So, it just takes a selfless act of saying, your life matters to me, and I'm not going to let you take your own life, because you are so priceless, not just to me, but to God. And neither one of us want to see you struggle with this. So let us help you, just let us in.
That's great, man. So how do you guys get funded and stuff like that? Or, how can people help out and, donate money?
We're 100% donation based.
Okay.
We're 100% donation based. We, right now we have, we're set up through PayPal, and it's under Doose Outfitters, which it's scrolling on the bottom of the screen. You can go to our website and it'll say donate now. And I think it's on our Facebook page and our Instagram page. But, we're a 501c3, so it's completely tax deductible. And which is, that's a benefit to you. We are getting ready we're going to try to use, I can't remember what it's called now. Steiner was telling me about it. Something about butter. But it's an application that it's an app that you download that it'll use any funding platform like Venmo, PayPal, any Cash App, any of those that are out there. They're all within this one site.
It sounds like a link tree, but for like payments.
Yeah. So I don't remember. Give Butter is what it's called. That's the name of the site, Give Butter, that we're looking at implementing. But PayPal is what we're using right now, or Miss J has Cash App. But by using PayPal, you get they track it, and it's a little more official than what a Cash App is. So, we're 100% donation based. We bring these veterans in. We provide their meals. Lodging is available if they want to use our lodging. And as soon as they get here, we reimburse them for their hunt licenses and tags. So the only expense that they have is their travel expense. And that, all they got to do is get here, and they're going to get money back so they can get back home. And while they're here, before they head home, they get a full-size Bible, and we just encourage them to work on that relationship with Jesus. It's a free gift, and it was kind of funny. It's kind of like your free stickers.
Right.
So
good one.
But it's just about caring, about being selfless and caring about something other than yourself, wanting to impact something beside yourself. So,
yeah, well, Preach, man, I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us and sharing your story, your experiences, what you guys got going on. Now, is there anything that you maybe forgot to talk about? Any last moment words you want to say to anybody out there?
So October 7th, we're having our gala event, and we're going to have Hooves is going to do they're going to be available, and they're doing a presentation. Mantle's Wild Horse Ranch is going to be giving a presentation, and potentially, if things work out, Brian Talley is going to be our guest speaker. It's we should have had this. If we'd have been thinking, we'd have had this equine therapy program up and going 2 years ago, because there is such a need for it, and we're in a position now where this needs to happen yesterday, because every day that we aren't up and going, we have veterans that are taking their own lives, and we're missing veterans because there's veterans that don't care about art, and there's veterans out there that don't care if they ever touch a gun again, let alone take the life of something again.
Yeah.
So, that leaves us with the alternative, which is the equine healing program, which we've got to have the facility, which is, phenomenal. I think if you watched, I think it was Contagion, I think those guys brought up the facility and showed it when we were talking.
I think they did. Mm-hmm.
It's got an indoor arena, an outdoor arena. It'll house, I believe, 18 horses. It's got 110 acres. We can use it for dual purposes, because we can actually use it to hunt minus long gun hunting. I don't ever want to use it to use long guns. And it'll allow us to sleep. I think we figured between 12 to 15 individuals at any given time. So, it's important, and the track record is there, and it exists for how equine healing has affected the veterans and dealing with post-war affliction that often leads to suicide. And so, it's just one of those things that, it's a tax deductible gift, and you're giving to a super awesome cause, because our money goes right back into the program. Jay and I haven't taken a paycheck in 7 years, 8 years now. It's just the food that's on our back comes from our endorsements. And, there are individuals that do support Jay and I personally. But as far as, taking from the ministry, all the money goes back into the ministry, so we can provide the types of, the quality of meals we provide, and we can reimburse them for the reimbursements happen for the tags and licenses. And, it's all about the veteran. It's not about any one of us.
That's great, man. I really love what you guys got going on. And, adding that equestrian is going to be a whole nother edition, like you said, to help others. And we need these different things, because you kind of hit it up, not everybody likes to do this or likes to do that. But if we give everybody that likes something an opportunity to go do it, I mean, how
Absolutely.
awesome is that? You know what I mean? So,
well, and the thing is,
I've just actually heard about something for skateboarders, for guys that like to skateboard. I was like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
No shit. I mean,
well, the thing is, and what's so cool about grassroots nonprofits is you deal with the people that you're talking to. You aren't dealing with one person over here to show up over here and deal with this person. If you call either me or my board of directors, and we're having conversation and setting up trips, and even with property owners, that donate their properties to us to use, because that's the other thing. All the properties that we hunt are private properties that have been donated to us by individuals that want to help make an impact. So our guests are never stepping foot on public hunting lands and being at risk. They're always in a controlled environment, as much as can be, considering weapons are involved. But, it's just about people being willing to serve a greater cause in themselves. And so we never ever wanted money to be an issue of why a veteran isn't seeking help. And so that's why we're set up the way that we are. And quite honestly, Miss J, her name is kind of circulated through the veteran community because of her sweet tea and her biscuits. The guys love her food, and she is such a warm personality. And, I think that a lot of these veterans get that sisterly or motherly feeling from her, which is great. That's kind of what we're trying to deliver, is that sense of family and that sense of belonging and that sense of tribe, belonging to something that, you're once you like I've told every podcaster that I visited with, you are now part of our family moving forward. If you're in a bad place at 3 a.m. your time, which is 4 a.m. my time, call me. I don't want you going through battle alone. Yep. But you're always welcome, you're always welcome here. And, we got veterans that come back just to help volunteer and want to impact lives with us. And that's great. It's just about belonging to something, once again, that's bigger than yourself, and you're able to impact lives in a positive manner.
I love it, man. I love what you guys are doing, and keep going. And I know we're going to keep hearing and seeing great things from you. Preach, this isn't going to be the only time I'm going to have you on. I'm definitely going to have you on for a round 2, and because we're awesome. I imagine you're going to have some great news for us here in the near future.
I'm hoping, if it falls within God's will, and we find those angel donors that want to make an impact and support like I said, it's mom and pop operations, honestly, are the way to go, because the people don't get lost in the mix of things. They don't get lost because personal relationships are built. And that's where impact is made, is through personal relationships, not going through a program where somebody's talking at you and not talking with you.
Yep. And that's what makes a lot of these nonprofits, especially the mom and pop ones like you're talking about, so much greater, because of the personal relationship that you guys are able to develop with these people. And they don't just feel like another number, going through the system type deal.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing.
If I didn't know that people were going to ask me about numbers, I would never keep track. But inevitably, every conversation you have, that's one of the first questions that gets asked is, how many veterans have you served? I don't know why, but, that's what everybody wants to know. So, unfortunately, I got to keep track of that, which I don't mind. I don't wear it as a feather, but it lets people know that what we're doing is making a difference, and people are seeking us out, and which in itself is a testimony. So.
All right. Well, shoot, man. I appreciate you, like I said, for coming on. Once again, Preach. I hope you have an amazing day, amazing weekend. I will be in touch with you. This isn't just a podcast relationship, brother. We are now, like you said, family. I feel the exact same way.
Because you're coming out for Hero Stock,
damn right, man. Damn right.
Man, I can't wait.
I'm going to make a visit out in Nebraska. Nebraska is are they ready for Mr. Brian Roof? I don't know
if we are, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Well, hey, they're about to see me shine in Nebraska.
Well, dude, I
September
can't
9th,
wait,
man.
and I
I
know
can't
that
wait.
you probably better bring one of them whiplash cuffs because after Miss J's done hugging your neck, you're probably going to need it.
It's okay. You know what? I'm like totally built for hugging because I'm a big ass hugger myself. So
Yeah,
I hope you guys are ready
absolutely.
for my bear hugs. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Because
sir. I'll
I'll be
tell her
squeezing the life
you
out
don't
of
need
you
to
guys
go to
too.
the chiropractor this week.
No,
Ruff's going to be here.
yeah, Mr. Roof is coming.
Yeah, Mr. B is going to be here.
All right, Preach. Well, man, I really enjoyed our conversation and having you on. You're a great guy, and
Hey,
I
call me
appreciate
anytime,
you.
man, and I mean
You
that.
are a leader amongst men, and we appreciate you, brother.
I'm just a dude, really. I'm nothing spectacular or special. I'm just a man that wants to make a difference and impact lives in a manner that lives deserve and need to be impacted.
Well, I love you for it, brother.
Love you
And
too, bro. Don't
yeah,
be a
man, just
stranger.
no, absolutely not. And I can't wait to see you in person. But go ahead and hold tight. Make sure we got our recording, and I'll be back there with you in a second. But thanks again, Preach.
Absolutely, bro. You have a great evening.
You too, brother. All right, friends and family. That was a great interview. Preach is a great guy. If you guys can, go check out and support Doose Outfitter Ministry. They can use all the support. They're doing great things, helping veterans with mental health. So let's help them as well. So until next time, friends and fam.